start from the beginning?
Start at the beginning. Hello, thank you for joining us again for this week's Legal Issues in Jacksonville. I'm joined today by Florida Supreme Court Justice Barbara Pariente to talk about Florida's Informed Voter Project. Justice Pariente.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and my thanks to the viewers. I am Barbara Pariente, and I am one of the 7 justices on the Supreme Court of Florida. I've served in that role for over 16 years. And today I'd like to talk about, first of all, this year's Law Day theme, which is why every vote matters. And that theme, which is a theme of the American Bar Association and the Jacksonville Bar Association having championed that theme, speaks to the importance of every citizen exercising their right to vote, something that has been hard fought for in our democracy, but something that is critical to our democracy. But the second part of voting is making sure that voters are informed. And in the area of the legislative and executive branches, oftentimes politics and political ads and debates deal with that. But in the area of the judicial branch, the third branch of government, there's oftentimes a lack of understanding, a lack of information about how judges are chosen, why judges are on the ballot, either as in contested elections, as they are in the trial courts, or why appellate judges and Supreme Court justices are on the ballot for a yes or no vote. So what the Informed Voters Project does, and it is a project in Florida, but also nationally, we are going out and hoping that lawyers and judges can talk to our citizens about what makes our country unique, and that is fair and impartial judges who are dedicated to resolving every case based on the facts and the law and the Constitution, and not based on politics or special interests or outside influence. A judge is not to decide a case based on popular opinion. That is the essence of a fair and impartial judiciary. So the kind of materials that we have developed and that we hope will be distributed in the community as the November elections come up, information on how should I judge a judicial candidate. And what these materials make clear is that temperament, integrity, professional competence, experience, and service in the community are important factors. And that's what we should be looking for. And where do you go for that information? We have the Florida Bar has a website. There are polls done by the Florida Bar on the types of information and those qualities and how the judges who are in office do on those qualities. And so that's a very important thing. And then when it comes to merit retention, to make sure that we understand that merit retention was designed with merit selection as a way that appellate judges and Supreme Court justices could be fair and impartial and not subject to the whims of politics or popular opinion. So we're very excited about this project because what we have found out is that, again, voters are less aware of issues involving judicial candidates as well as those up for merit retention and even sometimes constitutional amendments that may affect their very rights. So we don't want people to skip the judicial races just because they don't have enough information. We want them to get informed. So there's an excellent website, ivp.nawj.org, and you can even like us on Facebook. So again, thank you for having me today, and look forward to this wonderful campaign getting off the ground in Jacksonville.
Welcome to this segment of Legal Issues Facing Jacksonville. My name is Kate Messick. I'm a local attorney and the current president of the Jacksonville Women Lawyers Association. Today's program is sponsored by the Jacksonville Bar Association and the Jacksonville Women Lawyers Association. And we will be talking about an important subject, the Informed Voters Project, and the importance of fair and impartial judiciary. Today, to speak with us are 3 members of the local judiciary. To my right, we have Judge Karen Cole, Circuit Court Judge for Duval County. Next to Judge Cole, we have Judge Gary Flower, County Court Judge for Duval County. And next to Judge Flower, we have Judge Waddell Wallace, also Circuit Court Judge for Duval County. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Judge Flower, if I may begin with you. Surveys have addressed the limited knowledge the public has about our government. Would you tell our viewers, in our constitutional design, what is the role of the courts and how are judges different from other public officials?
Well, obviously there's three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The executive and the legislative branches are political and partisan. The judicial branch is non-political. We must maintain our non-political status and stature so we can rule on issues that come before us from both the executive and the legislative branch, which oftentimes happens. Our place in the system is for us to, we're here to adjudicate disputes between civil litigants and in criminal cases.
Okay. Judge Cole, how are state courts judges selected? State court judges selected as opposed to other officials as well?
Well, state court judges in Florida are typically elected, but there are occasions when a judge is initially brought to the bench by way of an appointment by the governor to fill out the unexpired portion of another judge's term. Perhaps that judge has retired, perhaps that judge has become disabled, but for whatever reason, someone needs to step in at an other than typical time to fill out the span of the term. But even those judges, once they are on the bench, stand for re-election every 6 years. And that holds true for both county judges and circuit judges.
What about appellate judges? What is the difference between the trial and appellate?
It's different for appellate judges. They are selected through a merit selection process, and then they do not stand for re-election or initial election, but what they do instead is they stand for merit retention election, and the public is asked as to each of the judges or justices, should Judge so-and-so or Justice so-and-so be retained, yes or no. Unfortunately, a significant number of voters thinks that that means that that judge has done something wrong, when in fact it is just an ordinary part of the process designed to give the citizenry more input on its judges. It in no way suggests that the judge or justice has done anything wrong.
Thank you. Judge Wallace, if we'll come back to you. Could you tell our viewers what factors are important in the selection of judges and how can the general public find out more information about the candidates?
Well, I think in selection of judges, you want to look for people who are qualified in the sense that they have had a good legal career and that they have a broad exposure to the community. You want to have people as well who have the reputation for being fair and impartial. And impartial is a hard word to define, but I think it's the ability to see both sides of an issue. We all have our background, our values, our personal experiences, but it's important to be aware of yourself and your own limitations and be able to look at and listen and truly understand opposing points of view. I also think it's important to have a good demeanor and to be patient, because as a judge you can't lose your temper or get impatient and cut people off and make a snap decision before you've let both sides be heard. And I found that if you sit back, so to speak, and let both sides have their say, even when you rule against one side, they'll be more likely to accept the decision as legitimate if they think you've listened and paid attention to their point of view. In terms of learning more about it, it all goes to the community, and the community trying to take advantage of the resources that are out there in school and the media and publications. There's a wealth of information on the web that we can talk about as we go along. But it is important for people to know, because there's such a lack of information out there about judges, because we don't make news a lot of times, at least not by making policy judgments and political type decisions. And so there's a lot of just uncertainty about who we are and what goes into our decision making.
So you mentioned there's several resources people could go to find out more about the judges or the candidates that are running. Could you tell us at least several of them?
Well, there's one that's I think is invaluable. JusticeTeaching.org is something that is published and produced by the Supreme Court of Florida. Justice Fred Lewis started a few years ago. Judge Cole is active in that. I've looked at and used some of the materials myself, and it's just a wealth of information about how judges are elected in places, appointed other places, the branches of government that Judge Flower was just talking about, our constitutional amendments. What's all included there and how they affect people in their daily normal lives. And I encourage people to look there and just reach out, so to speak, and look for courts and search things about state courts or federal courts, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. There is just truly a wealth of information available.
Great. Going back to the original question, if you were going to court and facing a judge, what qualities or characteristics would you look for?
Well, again, I would look for someone who had a broad legal background and was respected by their peers, whether the people they worked with or people who knew them. You want someone who knows the community, who has had a broad perspective and dealt with different subjects in the law, or at least has shown in their independent life a commitment to public service or civic activities. And then I go back to the idea of integrity. Certainly, you want someone who you can trust and feel that they can truly express the values of the community. And then the demeanor and the patience of a judge, I think, is important. Because when the judge speaks, that judge speaks for the community, for the state. I sit there in front of a seal of the state of Florida, and it's not me. I'm not saying this is what I want necessarily, but I'm saying this is how I think, given the facts as presented, how I think the law of Florida calls for a result. And so that person, the judge, personifies the state authority, and so it ought to be solemn and dignified, and ought to treat people with respect. So I think that idea of demeanor and patience, or those two things, are very important.
Understood. Judge Flower, Judge Cole, do you have any other ones to contribute, you think?
I think Judge Wallace has been very thorough.
I think he's been amazingly thorough.
Excellent. Judge Flower, if we may come back to you, once the judges are selected, how are they accountable in our system?
Well, they're accountable through the Judicial Qualifications Commission, which is the JQC. That body is the body which reviews complaints about judges. That body has the authority to give a public reprimand, or suggest a public reprimand, or even the removal of a judge for behavior unbecoming of a judge. That body suggests to the Supreme Court certain disciplines, and the Supreme Court makes the ultimate decision. Additionally, the judges serve for 6-year terms, so they're always accountable to the voters every 6 years.
Okay, great, thank you. Judge Cole, in your opinion, what in your experience, what factors should not influence a judge's decision in a case? And maybe you can give us an example.
It's probably easiest to answer that question by telling you what should influence the judge's decision. What should influence the judge's decision are two things: the facts and the law, and nothing else. So if you wanted to create a list of things which should have no bearing on the outcome of the case, that would include such things as whether a party is wealthy or not, whether a party is politically prominent or not, whether an issue is popular or unpopular with the citizenry. We judges don't have the ability or the luxury of bending to the will of the people. Our constitutional role is to apply the law to the facts as they are proven to us in a given case. And as Judge Wallace intimated, there are times when we have to decide a case